Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2017 State of the District Address. I am Nicole Enriquez, principal here at Sherman Academy. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to welcome some of our students to this, well, they're already here, who will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance in both English and Spanish. This is kindergartner Dalia de los Reyes, who will be saying the pledge in English. This is fourth grader Daniel Salgado, who will be saying the pledge in Spanish. At Sherman, we have a successful dual language immersion program where students experience half their day in English, half their day in Spanish, and all their day preparing to become bilingual, biliterate, and multiculturally competent global citizens. Now, please stand for the presentation of colors by the San Diego High School Army JROTC and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Put your hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Ponga tu mano derecha sobre tu corazón. Listos, empieza. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de Estados Unidos de América, a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
To sing our national anthem, please welcome the San Diego High School Choir.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Order, colors. Right, face. Port, arms. Pull right, march. Left, 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 left.
Please be seated. To begin tonight's program, please welcome our council member for District 8 and proud Sherman Academy parent, David Alvarez.
Thank you, Ms. Enriquez. I appreciate you opening the doors of Sherman today for the State of the District. Board members and superintendent, welcome to our beautiful community of Sherman Heights. And certainly as a proud parent of Sherman Lion, I am really happy that I was going to be here anyway, so might as well get up to the podium and informally introduce our school board president. I want to say just a few words in Spanish because this is a bilingual program, but it won't go on too long. Gracias a los padres de familia que están aquí y los familiares apoyando a nuestro distrito escolar. Como padre de un estudiante aquí en Sherman, estoy muy orgulloso de lo que está haciendo la escuela Sherman bajo la dirección de la señora Enríquez y obviamente lo que está haciendo el distrito para apoyar a nuestra escuela. So tonight, this evening, it's my great honor to introduce School Board President Richard Barrera. He has been on the school board now since 2008. He came to the school board focused on making sure that our schools are really centers of community. Learning that happens in our school impacts the neighborhoods beyond the school setting. And now as a parent of a student, I appreciate the vision that is shared by the Board of Trustees, certainly by President Barrera, in ensuring that our schools are obviously the highest quality schools, but also the schools that represent the needs in each of our neighborhoods. And in this case, this wonderful, rich community has a long history, a culture that is now embedded into this school, which did not exist before that. This school was not certainly as beautiful physically as it is today. It was rebuilt thanks to the work done by the school board, but also the programming that takes place here and the academic enrichment. And that's why I think as a Sherman parent, I am proud that you are all here to learn a little bit about our story from Sherman, but certainly it couldn't be a story without the help and support from the school district, the school board, and in this case, the school president. I want to introduce to all of you School Board President Richard Barrera.
Thank you, David. David is a good friend, and I often think of him as really just another school board member, although we know all the duties that David handles as a council member. But you know, David obviously is a parent, you know, here in the schools. But I can tell you that we have no better partner at the school district than David Alvarez at the city council. Whether it's the work we're doing to rebuild the new memorial, whether it was the work that we did to save San Diego High School, so many others. I know that David's heart is in the community, and it's in the community schools. So we're proud to be a partner of yours, David. Thank you. Okay, and I think I've got some people that I want to acknowledge for being here with us today. I want to acknowledge Diamond Wallace with the Office of Assembly Member Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher. Diamond, please. And Diamond, if you could just stand for 1 second. Lorena has had so much impact, you know, in her really short time at the state legislature, but one area that I don't know that she's gotten a lot of recognition for, Lorena led the passage of a bill, AB 377, that we worked closely with your office on, which is going to expand early childhood opportunities for thousands of kids in San Diego County, and so we thank you for that work. I also want to acknowledge Captain Brian Dixon, the commanding officer from the Naval Base Point Loma. Thank you, Dixon. And Ms. Laurel Manning, who's the regional director of the Three Strands Global Foundation, which is an anti-human trafficking organization. Is Laurel here? Thank you. Okay, and I hope I didn't miss folks. So the first thing that we need to do, this is an official meeting of the Board of Trustees, so can we get a motion to call the meeting to order? Thank you, Dr. McQuarrie. In a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. And I'd now like to introduce each of my colleagues, and I'm so proud to work as a team every day with this group of board members. And we're going to ask each board member to say a couple of words. So we'll start with our Vice President, Kevin Beiser.
Thank you, President Barrera. My name is Kevin Beiser, and I represent Subdistrict B. There's a lot of great, exciting things that we're looking forward to in the year to come. We are putting a very challenging budget behind us, and we're looking forward to making sure that our schools will continue to have elementary PE. And this next year, we'll have 100% music in all of our elementary schools. We fought to keep every library open this year. And finally, in 2018, we will see air conditioning installed in every classroom in the city of San Diego. There are so many wonderful things that we can celebrate in our schools about our teachers and our classified employees, our administrators, our parents, so many people all working together for a common goal, to help our children thrive. And so I'm going to continue to work together with our community partners and our employees so that we can fulfill our 2020 vision and the new iteration of that, the 2030 vision, as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Beiser. From District A, Dr. John Lee Evans.
I'm very happy to be here today to talk about the state of the district. Our goal is, our vision for 2020 is a quality school in every neighborhood, and this community certainly represents a situation where we have a quality school. One of the goals of the district has been to have all of our students multilingual, not just those that come in with another language, and we're continuing to develop dual language programs across the district in various languages. So quisiera darle la bienvenida a todos los padres y familia aquí de la comunidad de Sherman, y agradecemos su presencia aquí y sabemos que vamos a seguir adelante con la educación de sus hijos. So we're going to move ahead, and we're very happy to have all the parents who are here and the other people from the district as we move forward in Vision 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Evans. From District C, Dr. Mike McQuarrie.
Gracias, señor. So, bienvenido. Es un bien noche. Mi español no es fácil. Es mi padre, John Lee Evans, but yeah, pobrecito, sí. Cool. So I want to reflect a little bit on our national issue as well as our local challenge. Recent national events clearly call attention to the need for increased civility, improved communication skills, enhanced research skills, honest reporting and vigorous discussion of the facts, collaborative processes and collective problem solving, a renewal of basic democratic principles, and respect for the rule of law. Increased compassion and empathy, and an understanding of the consequences of our economic, social, and political actions have on the sustainability of our planet and the quality of our life, just to mention a few. The practical question is, are we preparing our students to deal with this rapidly changing environmental, social, political, and emotional ecosystem? It is becoming increasingly more apparent that our students need the hard and soft skills, knowledge, and experiences that will prepare them for an even more complex world than we could have ever possibly imagined. This is the time for assessment, reflection, collaboration, and capacity building. We can use this moment to take stock of where we are, where we have been, identify lessons learned, clarify improvements to be made, and determine how well we are progressing on achieving our Vision 2020. And we can begin to look to the future and begin to think about and plan for Vision 2030. In order for our students to take their place in the world, they will need to know multiple languages, feel comfortable in multiple cultures, understand the various flows of history, the root causes of impeding international conflicts, understand how to make sense of an ever-expanding database, have the ability to search, retrieve, codify, and make decisions based on massive amounts of information, be able to establish healthy relationships and maintain a healthy lifestyle, and have the sense of presence that enables a mental focus, calmness, and emotional balance. And a capacity for compassion and empathy would be helpful. Could continue longer. I have 2 minutes, but let me close with this invitation. If you'd like to continue this conversation, give me a call. Let's sit down, let's talk about where we are, where we've been, and where we want to go. And with that, I want to thank you for being here. Thank everyone who's helped us to bring about quality education in every neighborhood across this district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. McQuarrie, and I'd take him up on his offer. Having coffee with Mike is always an experience, absolutely. And our newest board member, but I'll tell you, I've never seen a more prepared person come into a school board office from District D, Dr. Sharon Whitehurst Payne.
So nice, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our State of the District event. I'm glad to see each of you here this evening, and I want to say that you'll hear from the superintendent and our president where we are as a static moment, but recognize that this is mobile, that it's a point in time and we're moving forward. My vision is for us to take this as a baseline of where we are today and to envision going forward for every child, to support every child in the district, and I mean beyond rhetoric. That means every Latino, every African American, every child with special needs, but to figure out what that child needs and to provide those needs for every child. And I hope you join with me and with the district in achieving that goal, because that's what I'm about, and that's why I'm here, that's why I'm on this board. Thank you, and you're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Whitehurst Payne. And now for, I think, the best part of the evening, we're going to bring back our San Diego High School choir with our soloist, Tiana Townsend. San Diego High School, please come back.
Hi, my name's Tiana. I go to San Diego High School. I'm a senior, and I'm in the choir, and I was asked to sing a solo, so I'm going to sing you guys a song. The song I will be singing is Se ben crudele. It's a song in Italian by Antonio Caldara. Se ben crudele mi fai languir, se ben crudele mi fai languir, sempre fedele ti voglio amar. Se ben crudele mi fai languir, sempre fedele ti voglio amar. Se ben crudele mi fai languir, sempre fedele ti voglio amar. se ben crudele mi fai languir, sempre fedele ti voglio amar. Se ben crudele mi fai languir, sempre fedele ti voglio amar. Se ben crudele mi fai languir, sempre fedele ti voglio amar. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiana. You know, listening to Tiana, it's always amazing, and I think David would echo this. You know, really just a few years ago, the music program at San Diego High School was almost non-existent, and we want to thank the leadership of Dr. Carmen Garcia and Jose Diaz, who have rebuilt this program. And now we'll hear from the San Diego High School Choir.
We have one more piece for you tonight. Hello, my name is Kayla Rogers. I am one of the music directors at San Diego High School. This next piece we'll be singing as a chorus is called Homeward Bound, and it talks about the journey of eventually leaving home, but always making the promise that they'll find their way home. So think Homeward Bound.
In the quiet, misty morning, when the moon has gone to bed, when the sparrows stop their singing, and the sky is clear and red, when the summer ceased its gleaming, when the corn is past its prime, when adventure's lost its meaning, I'll be homeward bound in time. Bind me not to the pasture, chain me not to the plow, set me free to find my calling, and I'll return to you somehow. If
was really beautiful. Thank you again, San Diego High School. Great job. So I do want to thank again Principal Nicole Enriquez and the Sherman community for hosting us tonight. And when we discussed where we wanted to have our State of the District this year, I thought it was important that we come to Sherman because the story of Sherman, the rebuilding of Sherman, is really a story that I think all of us can and need to learn from. So as David talked about, Sherman is actually one of the oldest schools in the district, but for a couple of years, in 2006 to 2008, Sherman was closed and rebuilt, and we have a beautiful physical campus that we're enjoying here tonight. But there was more than just creating a new physical structure for this school. The community was very clear about what it wanted in the new Sherman, in the newly rebuilt Sherman. The community organized and had many visioning sessions, and the community came together and said, we want a dual immersion English-Spanish elementary school here in the district. And we want that because we believe that in the position that our community is, that San Diego is, we're part of a global economy. And we want our students to be able to thrive in that global economy, and we believe if they're fully bilingual, that's going to give them a leg up. And at the time, the school board member for this district, unfortunately, although he himself was fully bilingual and bicultural, he believed that in order for young people to survive in this country, they needed to be immersed in English, and if they kept or didn't keep their native language, that was of minor concern. The key was, in order to survive, they needed to become proficient in English, and so the school district started to back down on its promise to this community. But the community said, we're too clear on what our vision is for our kids. We don't want our kids to survive in a global economy. We want our kids to lead the global economy. We want our kids to thrive, and so in order to thrive, we want to take what we have, which is a beautiful foundation, and we want to build on that foundation, and we want to be bilingual, and we want to be bicultural, because that's going to put us in a position, that's going to put our kids in a position to lead into the future. And the community didn't just express what they wanted, they got organized. And they came together, and they had meeting after meeting in the community. I was running for school board at the time, and it was a powerful thing to be a part of and to be aware of. But this community said, it's too important for us. Our public schools, our neighborhood school is too important for us not to fight for it. And that community fought for what they believed their kids needed. And today, Sherman is not only one of the most outstanding public schools in our district, but I think this dual immersion elementary school is really a model for the rest of the country, has become a model for other dual immersion schools that have opened in our district. And I think we're looking at the possibility, the hope of these students being realized because of what this community was willing to fight for. We have a waiting list for this neighborhood school, and it's an example for the rest of us of what can be achieved if we care enough and we're willing to fight for it. So let's give a big hand to the Sherman community for that victory. In a couple of moments, we're going to hear from Superintendent Cindy Martin, who's going to talk about the amazing work that goes on every day in our district. Our students, our teachers, our classified staff, our parents, our administrators, our community has come together in school after school after school, and we're seeing amazing results for kids across the district, and we'll hear about those results. But I'm not in the classroom every day. I'm not an educator. I'm a parent. I'm a product of the public school system. My kids are the product of the public school system. But the role I play is I'm elected by you to represent the interests of the community in what we want to see in our public schools. I know that whatever resources we as a community provide to our schools, whatever the challenges our kids face as they come into school, I know that our educators will focus on those kids and will do right by those kids. We see it every day. But as your representative, I'm here to challenge all of us, because the honest truth is that if we reflect on the role we're playing as a community in supporting our schools are in the most fragile place that they've been over the course of our lifetimes. Our schools are in a fragile place because our kids and families are in a fragile place. Our kids in this expensive home, San Diego, our families have for years struggled to make ends meet, dealing with inequality in our economy. But now the housing crisis is hitting our kids and families like it never has before. We saw about 1,000 student decline in our predicted enrollment when the school year started. And although we need to gather all of our evidence, we believe anecdotally that that decline is primarily due to the fact that it's more and more difficult for our families to afford to live in San Diego. We think we're seeing families move to the East County, and we know we're seeing families move out of San Diego County and out of California altogether. So we need to understand that the housing crisis is an education crisis. Our kids and our families are fragile because we know for years now we've seen the growth of an incarceration system that, as Michelle Alexander wrote about 5 years ago, has made too many of our families second-class citizens in their own communities. Too many of our families have been placed into, at one point in their lives, the incarceration system, and once you're in, as Michelle Alexander talked about in the new Jim Crow, it's hard to ever get out. Criminal justice reform is an education issue because it affects our kids and our families every day. And now, although it's certainly not a new threat, we've seen a magnified threat since the presidential election in our students and our parents and our families facing the threat of deportation. Tonight we have a courageous family who's agreed to come and allow us to share a little bit of their story. Could I ask Aime and Yahida and Ivan Casares, if you wouldn't mind to please stand and be acknowledged? Thank you. Amy and her husband Gaston, you can sit down, thank you. Amy and her husband Gaston are exactly the kind of parents that we strive for in our district. Active, involved parents, supportive of their kids' education. Yahida is a senior, a straight A student who's applying to college right now and hopes to be able to get into San Diego State and stay and contribute in this community. Ivan is a fantastic young man who's a freshman, both at Scripps Ranch High School. And Ivan has autism, but he doesn't let that get in the way of his coming to school every day and working hard for a strong education. And Amy and her husband Gaston have been there, incredibly supportive parents, engaged in the schools, and yet a few weeks ago, Gaston was taken from his family and taken from our community and was deported. Gaston came to this country when he was 16 years old, has been a contributor to our community ever since, an incredible parent, an incredible role model in our community. And the federal government found it in its wisdom that it was a good thing to do to take Gaston away from our community and away from his family. And so what we can do as a community is, of course, to wrap our arms around the family, to ensure, Yahida and Ivan, that you're going to have every support that you need to succeed in school and to succeed in life. We're going to be here for you every step of the way. And we thank you for your courage in being here tonight. But we also have to understand we've got to do more than that. We've got to come together as a community and be willing to fight for our families, fight for our young people, and stand up against this kind of injustice. And our schools are fragile, not only because our students and our families are fragile, but because the support that we provide as a community leaves our schools in a fragile place. We've told the story many, many times. My parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, coming out of poverty and into the middle class in California, decided that the best thing that they could do was to invest in a great public education system here in this state. And because of their sacrifice, they created what at the time was the world's best public education system. Our K-12 schools, our early childhood education, our community colleges, our Cal State University, our University of California. There was a vision from those generations of Californians that our primary responsibility is to leave behind a well-educated group of young people that can go forward and meet the challenges that they'll face into the future. And all of us have benefited from the gift that those two generations provided to us. And yet our generation has seen the investment in public education go from being the very top to we're now number 46 in the country in per pupil funding. And while we have disinvested over the course of a generation from our public schools, we have supported the creation of the largest incarceration system that anybody's ever seen anywhere in the world. And that's been the product of our generation and of this community. And so we need to take responsibility tonight and moving forward in acknowledging that while our schools are achieving great success, while our students and parents and teachers and staff and administrators and community supporters are doing amazing work every day, we as a community need to ask ourselves, like those parents at Sherman asked themselves, how important is it to us to fight for our public schools? Marshall Gans, who worked with Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta in creating the farm worker movement, Marshall talks about the process of people coming together and achieving positive change as a three-part process. The story of I, in which each of us asks ourselves, how important is it to us individually to struggle for positive change? And then we come together in the story of we, and we recognize that together as a powerful community, we have the capacity to create change. But then we need to come together in the story of now and recognize that we can't wait any longer to create the change that's required, that we've got to draw on our own power as a community to make that change. The story of my parents are immigrants. That's my family story. My dad came to this country from Colombia. He was the first person in his family in Colombia to leave his small town and go to the big city in Cartagena and go to college. And then he came to the United States and started all over again. Didn't speak English, couldn't take advantage of his education, had to work 3 jobs at once to support his family, had to go back to work. My mother's parents came to this country through Ellis Island from Europe, had nothing when they started out, but worked hard to create a future for their family, and my mother was the first in her family to graduate from college. And in our family's story, it's been the public schools that have made all the difference. The public schools made the difference for my mother's ability to come out of poverty and go to college, go to public college in this state, UCLA. It was the public universities that my dad was able to go and teach at and became a professor at San Diego State. But I think to them, even more important than that, it was the quality of our elementary, middle, and high schools that enabled their kids, that enabled me to be able to be in a position to stand here today and have this discussion with you. The public education system has meant everything to my family, and I would suspect, in fact, I'll ask, show of hands, how many people here would say that the public schools have made the difference in the lives of your families? I think so. The story of I is obviously, in our community, the story of we. But the question is, given the role that the public education system has played in our family story, is it enough to push us to be willing to fight? Are we willing as a community, as an education community, to raise our voice in the current debates about the affordable housing crisis? Are we willing to support the efforts of David Alvarez and his colleagues on the City Council to address in the most ambitious and aggressive way possible the crisis that makes it more and more difficult for so many of our families to continue to live here? Every time there's an attempt by people at the city or county or state level to do something real about the housing crisis, we need as an education community to lend our voice to that debate. We need to show up to those debates, and we need to make clear that the housing crisis is a schools crisis, because if we don't play our role, then it's going to be more and more difficult. It's going to create more fragility on our families and on our schools to see it become out of reach for people to afford to live in our own community. Are we willing to come together in the story of we as a community and fight for criminal justice reform and fight for comprehensive immigration reform to make sure that our voice, that the voice of the education community, is heard loud and clear in these debates? I'm proud of the fact that our district has so far, since the presidential election, stood up and said, we will operate as functionally a sanctuary district, and that we will not in any way cooperate with people attempting to enforce immigration orders through our schools. Our expectation that we will continue to fight for is that our schools will serve as safe havens, where we will not allow immigration authorities to come onto our schools or onto our school buses. Just recently, under the leadership of our General Counsel, Andra Donovan, if Andra's here, if you could just give us a wave, we filed an amicus brief in support of the challenge to President Trump's executive order rescinding the DACA program. And we will continue to fight with and for our dreamers, but we will make clear as an education community that it's not good enough for a federal solution that protects our young people, but that deports our parents. We will not agree to that form of compromise, and we will fight as an education community for immigration reform that protects all of our students and all of our families in our entire community. And together, in the story of we have to come together as a community and say enough is enough. We have to go back to an investment approach in public education and not continue to see this decline of investment in our schools. We know, we actually did a study a couple of years ago led by Superintendent Martin. What would it take, what would it cost to just eliminate the achievement gap altogether? We've done great work. We've seen rising graduation rates. We've seen declining suspension and expulsion rates. We've seen increasing numbers of students become bilingual in our district, arts and music, science programs, all the great things that we've done. But we continue to see an achievement gap that does not need to exist because we know how to solve it. We know what the strategies are that allow young kids as they enter our schools in kindergarten or TK who are behind at the time We know what the strategies require to help those students become proficient in reading by 3rd grade. And we know it's about lower class size. We know that we can do the best that we can if we have 23, 24 kids in a 1st to 3rd grade class. But we know if we have 15 kids in a 1st to 3rd grade class, both our own experience and national research shows us that the kids catch up and stay caught up. We know that to fully implement our restorative justice model, we have to invest in counseling support. We know we have to invest in more nursing support to protect the physical and mental health of our own students. We know that there are so many strategies that we see working for us every day and that have worked consistently over the course of a number of years, but to take those strategies to scale and to have the stability that we can move forward with those strategies and eliminate the achievement gap once and for all, we actually know how much that would cost. The cost is about an additional $3,500 per student. We've quantified it. We've analyzed it. We know what it would cost. California right now spends roughly $10,000 per student. If we spent another $3,500 per student in this state, we would still be below the national average in what states across the country provide in terms of per pupil funding. But we know that we would close the achievement gap with that additional level of investment. So what does that mean? That means every opportunity for increased revenue to provide the support that our schools need, we need to come together as a community and fight for. There might be opportunities next year to pursue local revenue measures, which we need to explore, and if it's a possibility, we need to come together and fight for those measures. We know that there's a coalition that's been working for several years at the state level to close a loophole in the commercial property tax system that allows large commercial property owners to not pay their fair share of taxes. And if we close that loophole, that brings in nearly $10 billion a year that we could put into our schools. We know, and being led by some of the leaders in the California Teachers Association and parent advocates around the state, that there's an increasing vision that in the year 2020, we should go from $10,000 per student to $20,000 per student, 20 by 2020. We need to get behind that effort. The level of wealth that exists in this state, I was just, my son is now working up in San Jose, and seeing the kind of wealth that exists just in that community in the Silicon Valley, we have the ability as a state to double our investment in public education and rise to the top again, which is where we need to be and where, as a community, we need to come together to fight for. Are people here willing to fight for our kids by addressing the housing crisis? Yep. Are people here willing to fight for our kids to face down the deportation threats? Are people here willing to reverse the generational slide away from investment in public schools to incarceration and make us #1 again in this country in investing in public education? But if we're willing to wage that fight, we can't wait any longer. I've been on the board now, this is my 9th year on the board. We've all seen over the course of a generation what happens to our public schools when we don't stand up and fight. We had a group of students, I had the pleasure of speaking to 3 AP history classes at Lincoln High School last week. Dr. Kiki Ochoa, the teacher there at Lincoln High. And it was a great discussion. We were talking about the Constitution, the United States Constitution. And the students asked, well, we don't get it. It's obvious that a society that invests in public education is going to be better off than a society that invests in incarceration. We all see that. Everybody we know sees that. So why is the reality the opposite? And what we discussed is that in this country, change is hard. Our system is designed, our Constitution is designed with the assumption that if people don't stand up and fight for their interests, other people will fight for theirs, and the interests of the larger community will be trampled upon. Our Constitution assumes that we're in a competition of interests where even though everybody in this room would say we need to stand up and we need to invest in public education, that there are still people powerful enough because they're organized in this society that fight for the opposite every day, and we need to stand up and do our part. In this country, if we're not willing to stand up and participate and organize and engage and fight, and if we're not willing to do that now, then we will leave a legacy behind as a generation that none of us can be proud of. But if we are willing to stand up and fight for what we believe in, the experience that so many of us have been able to see when we saw the students here in the San Diego High Choir. Who here as a parent has experienced that moment when you see what your kids are doing in school, whether it's their exhibitions or you see the work that they've produced and you say, my God, I can't believe my kid is that smart, right? Right? You've experienced that moment. I can't believe what my kids are capable of achieving. The pride and the awe that comes from that, I think that's worth fighting for. But we need to come together, the story of I, the story of we, and the story of now, to win that fight. Our friend Andrew Sharp here in the district reminded me of a play that Seamus Heaney, a Nobel Prize-winning Irish poet and writer, produced in the early 90s. And Seamus Heaney grew up in Belfast in Northern Ireland. And his life experience was the experience of a community that needed to face up to a very difficult situation. And Seamus Heaney was cognizant of his own experience, but at the time he was also thinking about the need for the community of the world community, the global community, to come together to challenge apartheid in South Africa and to challenge so many forms of injustice. And Seamus Heaney wrote, "Human beings suffer. They torture one another. They get hurt and get hard. No poem or play or song can fully right a wrong inflicted and endured. The innocent in jails beat on their bars together. A hunger striker's father stands in the graveyard dumb. The police widow in veils faints at the funeral home. History says, don't hope on this side of the grave. But then, once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up and hope and history rhyme. So hope for a great sea change on the far side of revenge. Believe that further shore is reachable from here. Believe in miracle and cures and healing wells, but call miracle self-healing. The utter self-revealing double take of feeling. If there's fire on the mountain or lightning and storm and a God speaks from the sky, that means someone is hearing the outcry and the birth cry of new life at its term. Let our outcry be the birth cry of this generation's newfound commitment to a public school system that is going to allow our kids to move forward and thrive and lead in the world in the way our Sherman parents believed it's possible. Let's make hope and history rhyme. Thank you. And now I'm proud and honored to introduce an amazing educator that we're all privileged to work with every day, our superintendent, Cindy Martin. Cindy, tell us what we're fighting for.
Thank you, Board President Barrera. What are we fighting for? My friends, we are fighting for a future that is worthy of our children. We're fighting for public education because we believe it is the foundation of our communities, the foundation of our democracy. We're fighting because we are San Diegans. We're San Diegans who love our city, and we believe in our hearts that better schools create better students, and better students make a better San Diego. Now, you know the challenges. I see you. I see many people here tonight who've been fighting for better schools for their whole lives. I see teachers who have been fighting to confront and interrupt the long-standing beliefs and practices that limit rather than expand outcomes and experiences for our students. Tonight, I see principals and support staff who confront the fact that our state is 46th in education spending every day. I see our board members fighting to fund quality schools, not just in some neighborhoods, but in every single neighborhood. Every day, across our district, we have close to 200 principals and 6,000 teachers, police officers, classified staff who wake up each day knowing that we are the lucky ones. We're the ones who have the rare privilege of making a massive and immeasurable impact, not just on the lives of the individual students we get to know, love, teach, and watch blossom, but on our entire community. Our reach as educators goes beyond what has ever or can ever be measured. We don't have all the state funding that our students deserve, but my friends, we are rich with talented, dedicated teachers and staff who put children and service above all else. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. And thanks to all of you, the state of our district is strong. The state of our district is strong because of schools like this one, Sherman Elementary, giving children the chance to excel in multiple languages. The state of our district is strong because of principals like Fernando Hernandez from Perkins Elementary. Fernando, are you here? Please stand up. Fernando leads a community where the homeless student population has gone from 4% to 30%. And he meets that challenge with dignity and grace and an absolute and relentless focus, not only on student achievement, but on student achievement and outcomes, but a focus on the whole child. Fernando, you know every single student and their family and their story. You embody leading with love and compassion, with an intensity and a relentless focus on your precious children. You understand and show us all how to be humble, gracious, and a servant-focused leader. Thank you for your leadership, Fernando. The state of our district is strong thanks to inspirational teachers like Jamie Yumiko Brown, our California Teacher of the Year and a San Diego High graduate. Very own San Diego High graduate representing us as California Teacher of the Year. She returned to teach at her alma mater. Jamie, you felt the sting of being excluded as a child, and you turned that into a lifelong commitment to lift up student voices by creating classrooms where every single student feels safe and respected. Jamie's work is incredible, but her soul is what truly shines, and we thank you, Jamie. And sitting next to you, Jamie, is your principal, Carmen Garcia. I'd like Carmen to please stand up. We know how important We are clear on how important the partnership is between principals and teachers. Both of you understand the conditions that allow our students to become actively literate. You both understand that literacy is an important goal, and more importantly, you understand that the reason why we focus on literacy is because we want our students to be able to fully participate and contribute in the world when they graduate, to make the world a better place. Thank you both for your work every day at San Diego High. It's truly inspiring. For 4 years, it's been my honor to lead the finest group of educators in the state of California. In fact, my first day as superintendent was the day Governor Brown signed his major education overhaul plan, the local control funding formula. 4 years later, we can say without reservation, reform is working in San Diego. 4 years of transformational reform in San Diego have created a school community with equity at our core. Plain and simple, equity for us means that our schools with the highest needs get the most resources, the most support, because that is how we close the achievement gap. We have a transparent LCAP process with more than 32 public performance metrics, because accountability is also at our core. And we have meaningful local control. We have heard clearly what our local families have told us they value and what they want most: academic rigor, the arts, technology, sports and fitness, and civics education. These are all in our schools because that is how we help children find their passion so they become self-guided, self-directed learners. Our schools are better than they were 4 years ago, and that means more than high test scores, although our scores are up. Better schools mean more than high graduation rates, although graduation rates are up too. Better schools mean more than beautiful new buildings, although we're spending $1 million a day on average to upgrade our facilities, thanks to our students, our parents, our teachers, our administrators, our support staff, and our fine community partners. School reform is working. It's working when we have more students coming home every day to display new skills in another language, in the arts, in technology, in sports, or in civics. It's working when we have more parents who see the look of wonder in their children's eyes every day. When we make our schools better, our students do better. And that's what ultimately makes our world a better place. We have an example of that right here tonight. An example of our kids participating and contributing in a powerful way to make the world a better place. I'd like to ask Carlos and Linda Legretti to please stand up. I know you're here. And could I have the leaders of the Cesar Chavez Service Club also stand with them? Cesar Chavez Service Club leaders, thank you. Thanks to these amazing service clubs, the students raised more than $2,000 and filled a delivery truck floor 6 times over with food and supplies for the victims of the earthquake in Mexico City. Thank you all, and thank you Hoover High for hosting that incredible event. Now, you know, I realize that today our young people are sometimes seen as being a little bit self-absorbed, maybe obsessed with selfies and social media, and many from a different generation can't relate to this, and they ask, why do our kids take so many selfies and post pictures of mundane things of their everyday life? But you know, this is not what I see when I see our young people like those in our Cesar Chavez service clubs. To be sure, we all do have the desire to be recognized for who we are. And in fact, this year marks the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s final sermon at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, the church where he was baptized and served as a pastor. In it, he talked about what he called the drum major instinct. It really is the desire that we all have for recognition, for attention, for praise, for importance. He pointed out in his speech that we all want to lead the parade. We all, in our own way, just basically want to be a drum major. It's not that Dr. King believed that the desire to stand out was something wrong or that it was a bad thing. He even told us that we should definitely keep feeling the need of being important. He told us that we should absolutely keep feeling the need for being first. But then he added, I want you to be first in love. I want you to be first in moral excellence. I want you to be first in generosity. That is what I see in our young people today. I see kids all over our city who are not just taking selfies to self-promote. I see our young people understanding that they have an important contribution to make and that they can make a difference, that they can be upstanders and not bystanders for social justice, that they can see something, say something, do something. Our students are the change makers. From the Kids Eco Clubs to the Cesar Chavez Service Clubs to the Gender Sexuality Alliance Clubs, our students are making San Diego a better city every day by taking on bullying, climate change, and poverty. They are putting themselves first in love. Love for our community, and love for our world, and love for one another. It is time for the adults in our district to follow their example. Dr. King understood that love wins in the end, but sometimes hate has the loudest voice. We know school reform is working in San Diego, but we do not have the loudest voice. We hear voices on the right saying public education cannot work and privatization is the answer. We hear voices on the left saying we should go back to the way things used to be. That's why we must be the ones to stand up for our students, for our schools, and for our values. Our district hashtag on Twitter is LoveSDSchools, and our job leaving here tonight is to lead with love, to put ourselves first in service to others, because we know better schools help our students do better, and that makes the world a better place. Love wins in the end every single time. Attention to yourself. Seek recognition. Take that selfie, tweet that tweet, post that link, stand up and make your point at your site governance team. Go ahead and say, look at me. But do all those things while you are protecting immigrant families from deportation, or launching your new STEAM lab at your school, or engaging in public discourse with people who want to privatize our schools, our public schools, or celebrating the fact that your seniors got $10 million in college scholarships, or helping students explore careers in blue technology on the Midway, or marching with your school band in the Rose Bowl. Do all those things and we will support you. Your district will support you. Last year, we started the Quality Schools in Every Neighborhood Awards to recognize those who are making a major contribution to our work. On December 1st this year, we're going to announce the guidelines for this year, and I hope every single school will apply. Call attention to yourselves and the amazing work you do every day. Be proud. You have plenty of stories to make us all proud. Let's remember what Dr. King taught us. If you want to be a drum major for justice. Be a drum major for peace. Be a drum major for righteousness. Dr. King taught us all how to live and be in this world, and he also taught us how to take action and live a life that creates a legacy. He reminded us about the importance of service above self when he foreshadowed his own death and described how he himself wanted to be remembered. He said, "If any of you are around when I have to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. What more can we ask of any of us? What more can we ask for?" Thank you. I'd like to invite up our board president, Richard Barrera.
Okay, I think I'm supposed to close this out. Oh, sorry. We want to offer special thanks to our sponsors, the California Coast Credit Union. Give a hand to the... Of course, the San Diego High School Army JROTC. The San Diego High Choral and Instrumental Departments. And from our district, if we could thank our Board of Education office, led by Cheryl Ward. Along with our communications office, our food services, our physical plant operations, and our police services. So thank you for everybody coming out tonight, and our meeting is adjourned. All right.